All right, young people. So today or tonight, as you view your ed puzzle, perhaps it's the morning, we are going to talk about classifying triangles. We're going to do it by their angles and by their side lengths. And then we're going to do it by both, right? Okay, so here we go. Classifying triangles by their angles. When a triangle has all acute angles, we just call that an acute triangle. No tricks and nothing crazy. So all those angles, every single angle has to be less than 90 degrees. Remember that. If I see one angle larger than 90, it's not acute. In fact, if I have an angle that's larger than 90, we would call that, and so right here, this angle is going to be greater than 90. We call that an obtuse triangle. Next, if there's a right angle, you guessed it, that's going to be a right triangle. And last but not least, if I have three congruent angles, we don't call that a congruent triangle. No. We call it equiangular. Now, in a moment, we'll say more about that. But that's an equiangular triangle. Okay. Moving on down. Excuse this writing on the screen. I want to classify these triangles by their angles. All right, so here we go. Triangle named with three letters, and we see this symbol triangle in the front. So triangle C, D, E. So from C to D to E. Right away, I see that right angle. Oh, that is a right triangle. Next, triangle B, C, E. So B, C, E. That's going to be an obtuse triangle. Okay, and the angle that I'm looking at there is actually angle BCE. This angle here is the one I'm saying is obtuse. Okay. Next, triangle ABE. ABE. Now, I failed to mention this earlier, but we see these three angles are congruent. We know they're congruent because they have congruency marks, okay? So that's going to be an equiangular triangle. Number 4, triangle BDE. So we're going from B to D. Well, look here. See in the bottom, there's a 90-degree angle, and then we go past that. Well, that would mean that that angle is obtuse. So that will also be an obtuse triangle. Next, we have triangle CFE. So from C to F to E. Well, clearly this angle here is going to be less than 90, as well as the others. That's going to be an acute triangle. Acute triangle. Okay. So that's not so bad. Next, we're going to classify them by their sides very quickly. Okay, so if a triangle has three congruent sides, it's going to be an equilateral triangle. Right? And so here's the important thing, something I wanted to mention earlier, but I didn't. If a triangle is equilateral, it's also going to be two things. It's going to be equiangular. And I should have said this earlier for equiangular, but all angles are going to be equal to 60 degrees. Okay? How did I know that? Well, because there's three angles. They're all the same. 180 divided by 3 is 60. Now, I should have said that for equiangular and for equilateral. But if a triangle is one, equilateral, then it's also equiangular. And if it's equiangular, it's also equilateral. Now, if there's two congruent sides, it's going to be an isosceles triangle. And if there are no congruent sides, we're going to call that a scalene triangle. Okay, here we go. So I just want to stress a couple of things here on these. Equilateral, the three sides are all congruent. We see the congruency marks there. On isosceles, two sides are going to be congruent, okay? All right. And then on scalene, again, there will be no congruent sides. Here we go. Let's move on down. Looking at triangle JKM. JKM. So I'm going to pretend there's nothing there inside the triangle, okay? And I see, hey, none of those sides are even remotely close to being the same length. They're scalene. Now, I don't have to guess about whether or not they're close to the same length. I can look and see, are there any congruency marks? There are not. Now, triangle KLN. KLN. Sorry, that's kind of sloppy. But what we'll see is, hey, the segment LN is congruent to the segment KL. That's two congruent sides. It must be isosceles. Okay. Next, we have triangle JKN. And all three sides bear a congruency mark. One mark, right? So one congruence mark means it's congruent to the other two. They also have one. So it's equilateral. Equilateral. All right, now we're going to classify them by their angles and their sides. Okay? So using both. So looking at number 9, I have a right angle. Okay, so that must be a right triangle. And I also have two congruent sides. So that's going to be a right isosceles triangle. Okay, so in working on this problem, I would know that these two sides are congruent. Their side lengths would be equal. On number 10, I see, hey, this angle is 114 degrees. That's greater than 90. That's going to be obtuse. None of my sides bear congruency marks, so it's going to be an obtuse scalene triangle. Number 11. All three sides and all three angles are congruent. As we talked about, they're equal to 60 degrees. So we know this is an equiangular and equilateral triangle. Sorry, I ran out of space there. All right. Number 12 is going to be an acute what triangle? Okay, so that'll be fill in the blank. You can select the multiple choice answer. Number 13 is going to be a blank scalene triangle. All right. Blank scalene triangle. So you will choose classifying it by the angle, right? And then I'll do number 14. We see both of these are 5 feet, so that's going to be an isosceles because two sides are congruent. But I've been naming it by the angle first, so I'll stick with that. That's obtuse isosceles. Obtuse isosceles triangle.